Welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy's Bargain Bin for Tuesday, March 28th. I wonder if I said Wednesday in the other video. I have a hard time keeping track of the dates. Anyway, last night was certainly a mixed bag, which is exactly what I said in the other video. I did mention that Mindaugas Kuzminickas was going to be only playable if Carmelo Anthony didn't play. Carmelo Anthony did play, rendering Kuzminickas unplayable. What we didn't see coming was Tyreke Evans being a coach's decision to rest. So that's always a fun thing when the coach arbitrarily just decides to rest his players. Tyreke Evans may in fact have no fantasy value at all in the remaining games of the season. You can add Aaron Aflalo to that list, as both of those guys are a little bit older in the tooth, and pretty clear that Dave Yeager wants to run his young guys, as well as Costa Koufos, out there. The one diamond in the rough, which really wasn't a diamond in the rough at all, because he was a popular play, but he's somebody that nobody seems to like the roster, because every time I put him in my value plays, he gets a pretty negative response, and that's Zach Randolph, who had a monster double-double, ending up with over 40 DraftKings points and leading many teams to a very profitable night. Tonight shapes up a little better. DraftKings is doing this really funny thing where if it's not convenient for them, they're cutting out the late games because of the late swap. Interestingly enough, did not have that issue yesterday. They were fine with including 2 late games on the slate. I'm sure because they didn't want to just offer their fans a 4-game slate. Interesting to see what the community's theories are, or rather than theories, what are your feelings on the matter? Are you supportive of the fact that you don't have to worry about your players missing games, or would you just rather have DraftKings sack up like FanDuel did and say, hey, we want you to have a positive playing experience and we're reinstituting late swap? Because basketball is the only sport that has no late swap, and it is the only sport that arguably should have late swap. Very rarely does somebody in hockey decide, my vagina hurts today and I'm not going to play, or the space between my sack and my asshole don't feel very good, so I'm going to sit on the bench. Regardless, basketball is the only sport that needs to have late swap. Anyway, now that we're done with that, let's take a look real quick at who are some value plays that our module early on this morning really favor. In the value tier, we see names like Lewis Williams. Cody Zeller has been on an absolute tear. Not the best, but not the worst matchup against Milwaukee. Clint Capella, Sam Decker, Eric Gordon. That pretty much wraps us up with how the value splits out, aside from these 3 players I'm going to talk about now. Kris Dunn, shooting guard, Minnesota Timberwolves, 6,400 fantasy draft, 43 FanDuel, 33 on DraftKings for someone who's put up 2 consecutive outings in the mid-20s. Starting to see some minutes playing next to Ricky Rubio and Tyus Jones, who are both running the point. I think it's still mostly on the second unit, which is fine by me as long as the minutes remain there. Indiana isn't exactly a team that makes me too nervous. Yes, I think their defense has improved as the year has gone on, but it is by no means a team that we're kind of saying stay away, stay away. The price on him is just too low. When you're talking about a situation where 6x is less than 20 points and he's seeing more minutes than that, it's a consideration you at least have to make. I'm not saying it's a, wow, you got to lock this guy in because he's gonna be huge for you. But as long as he's getting minutes and the opportunities are there, there's no Zach LaVine, there's no Lance Stevenson, there's no Nemanja Bjelica. And I understand Dunn and Bjelica aren't necessarily correlated, but at the same time, Bjelica was getting a lot of those 6-man minutes that now Dunn can grab. Moving on from there, probably the most speculative on this list will be Shawn Long, center for the Philadelphia 76ers. 8,400 FanDuel, 4,500 8,400 fantasy draft, 4,500 FanDuel, 4,200 on DraftKings. Obviously, there's a lot of this that depends on the status of Jahlil Okafor. I don't think Long sees a ton of minutes if Okafor plays. Plus, you have to worry about Thiago Splitter coming back. All things considered, Philly's not going to the postseason. Why are you going to run Thiago Splitter out there, big minutes coming off of an injury? I just don't see it happening. I think that as long as Okafor remains out tonight, Long should see minutes in the early 20s. This is an excellent matchup against a bad Brooklyn team. He could continue to crush value, and he's been putting up some pretty good games. Finally, I want to look at Taurean Prince, 9,500 fantasy draft, which I'm absolutely not paying. 3,800 FanDuel, 4,800 on DraftKings. The Hawks are missing Kent Bazemore, Thabo Sefolosha, Paul Millsap. That saw Prince grab 33 minutes in the last game. He's incredibly volatile because this isn't the first time we've heard talk about him being a good value play. It doesn't hurt that the Hawks are playing the Suns, and that's a huge pace-up game, number one, but also a great game for opportunity because the Suns just do a lot of things very poorly. I think he's safe in a blowout to boot, so he's got to be my top overall value play tonight. So once again, our top three values this evening are Kris Dunn, Shawn Long, Taurean Prince. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our videos below. Head over to researchfantasy.com, sign up for our fantasy NBA mailing list, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Research and Win, and join us again tomorrow.